Good morning, everybody. As we go to the chitas of today. Today is the 7th day of Adar, the 1st of Adar. It is Tuesday. We are holding on chapter 28, verse number 31. Vasisa Samiel. We're going to the next garment. As you mentioned, the Kohen Gadol wore 8 garments. And we went through the ephod yesterday, and the choshen, which was on the ephod, the choshen, the breastplate, which carried the names of the Jewish people on the ephod. And now we go to the me'il. The me'il is this garment. As you can see, that the ephod is on top of it. And this was like a robe, kind of a garment, a long robe garment, which is called the me'il. It was, as it says, as the verse says, "Vasisa me'il, ephod," and you shall make a robe of the ephod, completely blue wool. It was totally colored blue. Now she says, what does that mean? El me'il ephod, upon which the ephod was placed as a belt. So the ephod was upon the me'il, as you see in this picture over here. The ephod was upon this me'il. Little tcheles, it had to be totally blue, without any other kind of material with it. And you have to, its opening at the top shall be turned inwards. Lefiv, its opening shall have a border around it, and that's this picture. You can sometimes be hard to see this picture, but this is the way it looked. So basically, it had like a strong opening, so it wouldn't tear, as the Torah says us. It shall have an opening like an opening of a coat of armor, so it shall not be torn. Now she says the opening of the top, the opening of the robe at the top, that it's the opening of the collar. That's a collar. The seichai infolded inwards, as the Tiger Onkelos rendered it, folded inwards, so that its fold should be a border for it. It was woven with a needle. Kifi tachra. We learn here that the coats of armor had an opening folded inwards, like a coat of mail. Lo yikara, why did they have all this? What was the importance of all this? In order it should not be torn. And the one who tears it transgresses a negative commandment. For this is counted in the number of negative commandments in the Torah. Likewise, the choshen shall not move is also, if the choshen is not tight around the kohen, it's a negative commandment. And likewise, they should not remove from it. Mentioned regarding the poles of the ark. So wherever it says it shall not move, like the poles in the ark, it says you're not allowed to take the poles out of it. If somebody would take the poles out of it, he would do a negative commandment. Next one, verse 33. This is a picture I'm going to show you. And that's the bell. The bell and a pomegranate. Pomegranate made out of different kind of wools. So that was the 2 things that were on the bottom of this me'il. As you see in this picture, the bottom of the me'il had a rim of bells, gold bells, and woolen pomegranates, so to say. In the bottom of the hem, you shall make pomegranates of blue, purple, crimson wool. On its bottom hem, all around, and make gold bells, b'seich saviv, in their midst around them. Now she says, what's a pomegranate? They were round and hollow, like a sort of a pomegranate, shaped like a hen's egg. Parmenizov, that says golden bells with the clapper inside them. They made noise. B'seichem saviv, between them all around, meaning between two pomegranates. One bell was attached and suspended on the bottom hem of the robe. Verse 34, Pamezav v'rimay, a golden bell and a pomegranate. And a golden bell and a pomegranate. Al shuli ami'il, on the bottom hem of the robe, saviv, all around it. Verse 35, and it'll be for Aaron as to perform the service. V'nishma koiloi. Now when the Kohen Gadol walks, it's going to be ringing bells. You're going to hear the bells ringing of the Kohen. V'vayel HaKodesh, when it comes to do the service. Hashem, before God. And when he leaves, and he will not die. So now she says, from the negative, we deduce the positive. If he had them, the garments, he will not die. That means he's obligated to wear all these garments. But if he enters when he's lacking these garments, he goes and does the service of the temple. The Kohen Gadol without all 8 garments, it's chayiv misa. He's liable to death, the hand by heaven. Verse 35. Torah now goes into the garment of the tzitz, the head plate. This was the head plate. Either it had 2 lines or 1 line, which said in it Kodesh Lashem. And this head plate was on his forehead. Underneath this mitznefes, underneath his hat. Okay, so that's the head plate. You want to, this is a general picture. But this was the Aaron wore a head plate on his forehead. The head plate on his forehead. You shall make it a show plate of pure gold. And you should grave on it upon an engraving of the seal, Kodesh Hashem, holy to God. So now she says, what does it mean? It's like a sort of a golden plate, 2 finger breadth it's with, like 2 fingers. Makib ala metzach, it was put upon his forehead from ear to ear. So that's the way, that was the tzitz. Another thing the Kohen Gadol needed to wear in the Beis Hamikdash. And as the Torah is going to continue, it had a rope on the 2 sides and a rope in the middle. The rope on the 2 sides went around his head, and the rope in the middle went over the hat, as you see in this picture, over the hat. Over the hat that he wore. It's not the tzilchelas. You shall place a cord of wool, blue wool. Will be over the cap. El mul part of, and it shall be opposite the front side of the cap. That's how you saw the picture. This is the picture. The mitznefes is his cap. So the strings went over the cap. Rashi says, "I'll still tcheles," but elsewhere it's written they placed it upon it the blue cord of blue wool. Moreover, here it's written it shall be over the cap. Where below it says it shall be upon Aaron's forehead. The clue, the solution is in tractate of Shchitas Kochim, where we learn his hair was visible between the show plates and the cap. There he placed his tefillin. That means Aaron HaKohen, he wore this plate upon his forehead. The cap started a little bit up on his head, and in between the cap and the tzitz, he put the tefillin. He wore tefillin. During the day, he had to wear tefillin. Thus, we learned that the cap was above on the crown of his head. and it was not deep. It was not deep. Didn't go. It's not deep enough for the entire head, for the up to the forehead to fit on it. The show place was below the cap, and the cords were there were holes, and hanging on it at the two ends and the center. Thus, there were 6 cords in these 3 places. 1 cord on the top, 1 cord on the side, and 1 cord on the opposite side. He tied the 3 ends from behind the nape of his neck. He went all 3 sides. He went this way, the top cord went this way, the 2 side cords went that way, and he tied it all in the back of his head. Thus, combination of length of the plate and the cord and an end encircled like the crown. The middle of the cord, which was on his head, was tied with the end of the 2 other cords, which was on the side of his head, and it passed along the surface of the width of his head above. Thus, it was like a sort of a hat. Concerning the middle cord, it says it shall go over the cap. He would place the show place on the head like a sort of a hat over the cap, and the middle cord would hold it so it would not fall, and the plate was suspended opposite his forehead. Thus, all the verses are explained. The cord was on the show plate on the cord was on the cap from above. If you want to, he shows a picture. So one picture to the left is the picture without the hat, and the one to the right is the picture with the hat upon it. And it to be on the forehead of Aaron. And Aaron will carry the sins of the holy. The children of Israel will sanctify for all their gifts. It'll be upon his forehead forever, for to be favorable, for the Jewish nation, Hashem, before God. So Rashi says in Nasa, this is an expression of forgiveness. Nevertheless, it does not move from the parent meaning. Aaron shall indeed bear the burden of iniquities. Thereby the iniquities will be removed from the holy things. So Rashi says this to appease God from the blood and the fat of the sacrifices that were offered up in a state of uncleanness. As we learn, which implies which iniquity does he bear? It is the iniquities of Pigel. Pigel was if the Kohen had a thought that was not the right thought at the bringing of the sacrifice. So he did something that's called Pigel, and now if he didn't say the truth, that's an Aveda. So this will bring if one who performed the sacrifice intended for taking the flesh outside the area designated for the sacrifice. The fact the sacrifice is rendered Pigel, we're going to learn this all in Vayikra, meaning an abominable thing. It consequently may not be eaten or offered up. The show place of the Kohen Gadol for it does not make the Pigel acceptable. Pigel, it's Pigel, but it forgives the sins. If the iniquity is nicer, left over sacrifice, it was already said, it will not be credited. Meaning, if one who performed the sacrifice service intended to partake the flesh after the time allotted for eating the flesh of the sacrifice, it's disqualified. And the show place does not render it acceptable. It cannot be. The show place is not there to make something that's unacceptable acceptable. It thus comes to forgive the mistake. Likewise, we cannot say that it will atone the iniquities of Kohen who offer the sacrifice while unclean. For here, the iniquities are holy things, not the iniquities of those who offer them up. Consequently, it does not appease except to render the sacrifice. Not appease except to render the sacrifice. It shall be on his forehead constantly. It shall be on his forehead constantly. It's impossible to say that it should always be on his forehead, but it was not on him except the time of the service when he did brought the service. But it means it will always make the sacrifice favorably, even if it's not on his forehead. Namely, if the Kohen Gadol was not ministering at the time, as long as he would always wear it when he did the service, as if he wore it the whole time. Now, according to the one who says But the only one he was on his forehead it pieces and makes it acceptable, otherwise it is not, upon his forehead constantly is interpreted to mean as much touch it. Interpreted to mean that he must touch it, the show plate, while it's on his forehead. So they did not make mind off of it. He always has to remember that he's wearing the tzitz, like we touch our tefillin when we're davening, not to forget our tefillin. So tamid means he always touched it to remember that it was upon him. Verse 39. Now, this is the next garments of the Kohen. You shall make linen tunics of checker work. This he wore underneath the me'il. So this was like a long t-shirt, but it was made out of linen, and it shall make out of linen cap. And you'll make, and that's the cap. That's his hat. So that's his garment, and that's his cap. So that was like a long t-shirt. And that was underneath the ephod, underneath the meal. He wore this long t-shirt. We shall made the stash. So he made out of embroidered. And this wasn't avnate. Is gaitel. So this was what the Kohen also wore. And now, these are the 4 garments of the Kohen, regular Kohen. These are the 4 garments. So he wore a much lighter situation. These are the 4 garments. Boxers, a long robe, a hat, and a gaitel. That was the 4 garments of the regular Kohen that he wore in the Beis HaMikdash. So a regular Kohen had 4 garments. The Kohen Gadol, besides these 4 garments, which he also had, he had also an ephod, a choshen, a tzitz, and a me'il. So the Kohen Gadol had 8 garments. The Kohen Gadol had 4. So again, the Kohen Gadol had these 4 garments also. Besides that, he wore a me'il on top of it. That was the garment with the bells on it. He wore an ephod on top of that. That was the apron. He wore a choshen, a breastplate, which was connected to the ephod. He wore a tzitz, which was on top of that, and that was another 4. So altogether, the Kohen Gadol wore 8 garments. Kohen Gadol, 8 garments. The Kohen Hedjit, a regular Kohen, 4 garments. And that, to do the service, that's what the Kohen Gadol needed to wear, and the Kohen Hedjit needed. And the Kohen Hedjit was never allowed to put on the Kohen Gadol's garments. So that's verse number 40. Into the sons of Aaron shall make a tunic. And you'll make them a stash, a gaitel. You shall make them high hats. Tassalem the chavel sifares shall make them for their glory. So now she says the 4 garments and no more: a tunic, a sash, hats, which are the same as the cap, and the pants written below all of them. So everybody had those basic 4, which was again a tunic, which is a long robe, a sash, which is a gaitel. That's why Chassidim, many Jews wear a gaitel when they daven. They put this rope around them. The same thing what the Kohen Hedjit did. He wore a rope around him. And this is the way a Kohen Gadol looked, and this is the way a regular Kohen looked like. So regular Kohen looked like this. Now the Kohen Gadol had his sash. You can't see it. It's underneath him. So that sash that the Kohen Hedjit had on him was also in the Kohen Gadol, but you couldn't see that white garment because that white garment was underneath the meal and underneath the ephod. So that's why the Kohen Hedjit, the regular Kohen, you see it, You see the gaitel on his white tunic, but the Kohen Gadol, you could not see it. It was underneath two garments. So the Kohen, that's the difference. You shall clothe Aaron and his brothers, eat with him. You not only do you have to wear these garments, you have to anoint them. You'll fill their hands, and you'll sanctify them, and they'll become kohanim to me. We still didn't mention the boxers. That's going to be the next verse. So Rashi says these are the garments, state in connection to Aaron, the choshen, the ephod, the robe, the checkerwork tunic, a cap, sash, showplace, and pants mentioned further in connection with those. So that's the 8 garments of the Kohen Gadol. There's Banav, and the children have their garments, because that's in the time in the first Mishkan, Aaron was the high priest, and his 4 sons were the Kohen Gadol, were Kohen heads, a simple Kohen. Meshachtai son, Aaron and his sons were anointed by oil. Melesius Yadam, Rashi says, what does it mean, filling of the hands? You shall fill their hands. Every mention of filling of the hands is an expression of initiation. When the person begins something, such as a position that he will be in possession for that day, it's referred to filling of a position. When they appointed a person to charge of something, the ruler put in his hand a leather glove called a gant in modern French, and thereby he grants him authority over the matter. They call this transition invests. They give a king, they give him a pole or something. They have these things that you give. So giving over, Malaysia, fill their hands. So that's the expression Rashi says over here. Also means to fill them with their responsibility. Verse 42. That's the lower the boxer pants. You shall make them linen pants. The chasis paraver to cover the nakedness. It shall be reached from the waist down to the thighs. These were long gatkes. They went a little bit down. Thus we have 8 garments for the Kohen Gadol and 4 garments for the Kohen Hedjed. Right? So you saw that picture of the small pants. This was the pants. This was it. So it went down to the thighs. That was his boxers or Fruit of Looms. I don't know what do you want to call it. We finished the entire all the Mishkan. We're gonna go through this again, my friends. I hope you remember. We're gonna go through this in the next two parshas. Yaakov Pekude, the Torah is gonna repeat this whole thing again. And it'll be upon Aaron and his children when they come to the holy. Or when they come to the Mizbeach, to service in the holy, and they shall not bear the iniquity. And they will die. It's an everlasting chukah. You might say, why? I'll make a different garment. No, this is the garments that God wanted. So Mashiach comes, we'll again have the Kohen and the Kohen Gadol will again wear these garments. So Rashi says, all these garments are worn by Aaron and those appropriate to him. Those most mentioned in connection with them. When they come to the temple, and also to the Mishkan. From here we learn that if somebody's missing a garment, if a Kohen did the service in the temple without one of the garments, he's the opposite of life. Chukas olam. She says, whatever it says, a chukas olam, it's perpetual statute. It means a decree that is effected immediately and for future generations as well. The statute is to make invalid the sacrifice of any requirement is missing, whether now or in the future. It will always need these garments for the Kohen Gadol. And that completes the Chumash of the day. Very nice picture, Yechavet. Thank you very, very much. Okay, we're now going to go to the Tanya of the day. We're going to finish chapter 27 of Tanya. The Alter Rebbe is giving us an unbelievable, as I mentioned, I finished yesterday. The Alter Rebbe gives the power, that the Eibishter and gives the power to every Yid, to every human being, especially to every Jew, that through his avodah, through his service in this world, anything. The Alter Rebbe says even holding yourself back from doing something that you just don't need. That means, as he gave the example yesterday, hold yourself back from eating for a minute. Not having to push yourself off even from davar mutter. As the Talmidim would always push themselves 2 hours later to eat. So even like Kaddish Atzmei b'mutala, sanctify yourself with even things that you're allowed. I'm not even talking about a sin. If a person controls himself, learns to sanctify himself even in things that are allowed, you can't imagine what happens in this world and in the upper worlds. Because in this world, that when you push away Gashmis a little bit, not talking about pushing away Gashmis that are bad, pushing, as the Alter Rebbe gives the example, Achila, holding yourself back from eating a moment. The truth is why the Chachamim instituted a bracha, that you shouldn't just rush and grab the food. Make a bracha. Stop for a second. Not everything that's allowed, you need to have it now. When a Jew controls himself and he controls Sitra Achra, he controls the concept of physicality in this world, he awakens up an unbelievable light, Lamaila. He brings about a revelation above, a godly revelation, as the Alter Rebbe says, which is even above the concept of vessels. Not which means in Kabbalist, in Chassidic terms, it means when a person, it's even greater than a mitzvah, because a mitzvah that you do, you bring it down the light in a vessel, control of oneself. When a person stops himself for a moment, he brings about a light that's above vessels. And therefore, the Alter Rebbe continues, and that's why self-control is really what makes a person. It shows who he is, and everything else is influenced by that. Because from this holiness that's elicited, that brings about Lamaila, it comes on the person here in this world. A little bit. That's why the expression is another expression. Open me up like the opening of a needlehead, and I will give you I'll give you a revelation you can't imagine. Because that's all we need to do is just control ourselves. We can do mitzvahs and everything and not show self-control. We're just doing it out of rote. We're doing it out of fear. We're not doing it because we want to do it. It's almost like we're not involved. It can be almost like we're not involved. The Avish says, I want your involvement. I want to have bitter on it, such as I want to have the concept of control, show your control in the world. Just like I have control in the world, I want you to show control in the world. Let's say, yeah, and then I will reveal to you unbelievable powers. And therefore our sages said, if a person sanctifies himself a little bit here in this world, he is sanctified greatly above. Besides that, the fact that he does something, does a positive commandment. The commandment of the Torah says, "V'skadishtem." You shall sanctify, make yourself holy. What does that mean, make yourself holy? Sanctify yourself and be holy. Make yourself holy in those things that you're allowed to. Make things holy. Meaning, hence, apart from the constellation previously offered the Bani, that through turning away from evil, by combating evil thoughts and desires, he offers God a pleasure. That's tzaddikim can. His battle with the sitracha also contains a positive quality in the category of doing good. That is likewise not present in divine service of tzaddikim. Right? So even a tzaddik doesn't have, the Bani has one thing over the tzaddik, that he controls his evil. Tzaddik has no problem with evil. The Bani, the Alter Rebbe, this is amazing. The Alter Rebbe says a Bani, a middleman, has even a power over the positive that he does. Because that a Bani, that a regular person sanctifies himself from what he's allowed, that is even greater than tzaddik. Tzaddik doesn't have that challenge. Everything by him is God. We can do positive things and not do it because of kedusha. Not do it because of anything else, because we're doing good things. We're good people. We don't want to do bad. So we can do everything good without sanctity, without kedusha, without saying that I'm doing it because I've chosen to do it. I'm doing it because of kedusha, because of God. So now even the positive of a Jew, of a regular Jew, even his positive is greater than a tzaddik's positive. I see the story. Once a Jew came to the Tzemach Tzedek and told him, I don't have a desire to learn. So the Tzemach Tzedek said, I have a bigger problem. And my problem is I do have a desire to learn. So what do you mean to say you don't have a desire to learn? So your learning is greater because you overcome your non-desire to learn. I have a desire to learn. I don't have to overcome anything. You don't realize overcoming even good is an accomplishment. Doing good for a right reason is an accomplishment. Forget about not doing bad. For the intention of the commandment is that even one's personal, permissible, and mundane matters should be attended at a desire of the animal soul for the sake of God. So when I can eat, like I said, to connect it with Torah. So I sit at a table, not only on Shabbos, but any day, I'm sitting and eating with somebody, I say it's by Torah. I give a second for God. That's an unbelievable accomplishment. If I go my day-to-day work and I have a moment of thought that I'm doing this for the sake of the Eibishter, I'm not just doing this because I need to pay my bills and I need it. I'm doing this for a godly purpose. There's a godly purpose in this day-to-day work. That's unbelievable. We're not talking about it. We're talking about doing good things. And who does mundane work? Not a tzaddik. A tzaddik is a godly man. He's sitting and learning Torah. He's sitting in the halls of study. He's sitting in a holy place. What does he know about day-to-day work? What does the tzaddik know about day-to-day struggles? They have no idea. They're above and beyond that. We do know about day-to-day struggles. Forget about struggling with our Yetzer Hara. We have day-to-day struggles, day-to-day with our Yetzer Tov. With the things that we're allowed to do, we struggle to make it godly, to make it some more purposeful. Forget about sins. So that a Jew can take the positive, the things that he's allowed to do, and say, you know what? I'm going to eat l'shem shamayim. I don't have to eat l'shem shamayim. I can eat because I'm hungry, and I can eat because I enjoy the food. But you know what? I'm going to think a little bit because I'm going to have a little godly thought about it. I'm going to say some words of Torah with it. I'm going to have it in mind to use it for a mitzvah. Alter Rebbe says you don't realize what this thought accomplishes. You don't realize what this thought accomplishes in heaven and the upper worlds, and ultimately upon you. You don't realize. You diffuse a light that is above any kind of. You diffuse a light that comes upon you in the world, a light that's above any vessels, because you have changed yourself. This is the meaning, sanctify yourself. You shall make yourself holy. That's to say that even though in truth one is not holy and separate from Sibracha, well, regular people. I'm not a tzaddik. I'm still a regular guy. Just because I had this thought, just because I had this intention, I became a tzaddik. Oh, regular guy. And the truth is, the second after I had the intention, the second after I'm back to the food. So I'm back to but that moment is what counts. So that's what even though in truth is, you're the regular guy, your thoughts, and my contemplation hasn't changed who I am. Keep it tuck with my Yetzer Hara is still strong and powerful. It never changed. My Yetzer Hara didn't run away because of this thought. My evil inclination hasn't disappeared because of this thought. But for a moment, I overcame my Yetzer Hara. I could have eaten kosher, and I could have eaten this food and enjoyed this pleasure, because why not? It's all good, and it's nothing wrong. I'm not doing a sin, but I sat and we say, wait, stopped for a second and said, you know what? Let me think. Let me do this for a godly purpose. Wow, what kind of sanctity you brought upon yourself. What kind of unbelievable revelation of godness you brought upon yourself. By Yisen Kadeshin, you will be holy. The world be holy, which is a simple sense, voice, a command, can also be understood to convey a promise. Because Lema, Seifeli is Kaddish, moved about it. You don't realize what it accomplished. This moment, where you had a thought, and if it's a minute, and 2 minutes, or 3 minutes, even better. You don't realize what that moment, or 2 or 10, accomplished, that ultimately you're going to see that revelation. Through his being greatly sanctified above. Oh, my say, and through that, God's going to aid him to vanquish from his heart his evil, ma'at, little by little. Ultimately, if you bring Kedusha into your life, and this is an important thing, because most of us think that Kedusha is the opposite of Klippa, of the opposite of evil. No. Kedusha is the opposite of mundaneness. We should not wait for evil to use Kedusha. We should use Kedusha in things that are mutter. We should start using Kedusha in things that are permissible. And if you start using holiness in things that are permissible, then you'll never do something that's impermissible. That's preventative medicine. Why wait for something that's impermissible and have a struggle? Start bringing Kedusha, start bringing holiness into your life in things that are permissible. You'll never do something impermissible. Because how can you do something permissible when your life is surrounded with holiness? So my day-to-day life is not surrounded with holiness. That's what the Rebbe asked people, have your home books with Jewish books. Every home should be full of Jewish books. Imagine you have a home with Gemaras and a Gemara in it, a Shas in it, a Chumash, a Mishnayos, the whole Tanakh, 24 books, and the whole book of Mishnayos, and the whole Gemara. You're gonna bring in, you're gonna make your house holy. It's automatically you can say, wow, the Jewish books, they have to act differently. It's not like a regular house. It's not just a bunch of, who cares what kind of books are there? Regular, I'm not talking about, I'm not no evil books, but whatever's just regular books. Oh, you have holy books in your shelf. Change the atmosphere of the room. Change the dynamic of the room. So suddenly it changes the dynamic of the room. It's going to change the atmosphere. You're going to start putting holy objects in there. You're going to start doing holy things in there. Change the world. Change the world in things that are allowed. And then you won't even do things that are, you won't have to change the negative, because you won't even do negative. Because you're going to be surrounded with godliness. You're not going to, negative will not come into the equation. And that's the beauty of the avodah of a Jew that's why we ultimately transform the world. That's why the Beinoni ultimately transforms the world. Not the tzaddik, the Beinoni, the regular Jew, ultimately transforms the entire world. And that's what Alter Rebbe says, that our service, we should be happy. We should be not only satisfied, we should dance that the Eibishter gave us a schus. Not the tzaddik, not that we're going to be a tzaddik, we're going to be a regular Jew that has evil, as the Alter Rebbe just said. We have evil within us. It's like the way he was born, it never went away from us. But we're going to change the world. We're going to bring down a light in this world that's above vessels. We're going to bring down a light in this world that's going to transform this world and make this world a better world. Why? Because we deal with the world. And we deal with the mundane world. And we bring godliness into the mundane world. We ultimately change the world. And that completes chapter 27 of Tanya. Today is the 7th day of the month, first month of Adar. It's the yahrzeit of the yahrzeit of Moshe Rabbeinu. So today, actually, the yahrzeit is done on the 1st of Adar. His yahrzeit is done on the 1st of Adar. And then next month, we celebrate his birthday, which is both the same day, the 7th day of Adar. So he was born on the 7th day of Adar. He died on the 7th day of Adar. So today is Moshe Rabbeinu's yahrzeit. And next month, it's going to be Moshe Rabbeinu's birthday the same day. So we have 2 days of his celebration of his life on these 2 months. Today is the 7th of Adar. And the Tillim of the day is chapter 39, 40, 41, 42, and 43. So those are the 5 chapters of Tillim. If you say these 5 chapters of Tillim, you have done the chitas of the day. And I wish you a wonderful, beautiful day. And we'll see you in Shem tomorrow at 8 a.m. And I wish you all a beautiful and happy day.